Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Underground Network. We are broadcasting live from Los Angeles, California, and it is June 9th, 2015. Do not forget to check our previous lives. I think we have a nice library of quite a few interesting topics. We have been following this past 5 months all the development in the Greek political scene, and I think when I say we, it's not really Underground Network. It is myself personally. I have been here every day, most every day, trying to give my viewpoint on the whole situation, and I think it's been pretty accurate so far. So for those of you who have not been following, I think it would be interesting to just scroll through the library of videos that are uploaded on the YouTube Live playlist and check what has been said about Greece and the current government, the government of Mr. Tsipras, and which is a coalition government with ANEL, a junior coalition partner, the independent Greeks, as they are called. So this leftist, predominantly leftist government is anything but the left. It is ready. I mean, it has submitted proposals to the European, to the Eurozone, to the creditors, the partners, whatever it wants to call them. It has submitted proposals that are in line with all the other governments of the previous years. These are proposals with harsh measures for the Greek people, horrible measures for the Greek economy, for the real economy, and in short, it is a new memorandum is in sight. Harsh conditions for the people, of course. Even for businessmen in the real economy, but for the people as well. Cuts in everything, cuts in spending budgets, whatever is left of what's called in budget. And there's no liquidity. So everything that looks, everything that seems that comes as new proposals is just the old proposals with some trimming here and there, but there is still talk of primary surpluses. Primary surplus means recessionary measures. So the prime minister continuously, as well as the finance minister, continuously contradict themselves because they talk about red lines, they talk about this, they talk about that, and they say that we don't want anything that would be a recessionary measure. Recessionary measure is happening as we speak, since the economy is at a deadlock and nothing is moving. So even that is recessionary. So I don't know what these guys are talking about. There's all the political discussions are identical. They have been pretty much the same for the past 5 years, but even more so for the past month. So the discussions are supposedly ongoing between Greece and its lender. The Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, is attempting to say that they're very close to a deal. He's always saying the deal is around the corner. It will happen within a few hours. It will happen within a few days. It's all bullshit. Of course, it's all bullshit. Anyway, Mr. Tsipras is mainly, I think, essentially trying to get the acceptance of his own party hardliners, so-called hardliners, because I don't think they are real hardliners. They just bark too much, but they don't do anything. So his own opposition within his own party, supposed opposition, again, I don't believe for a minute that these guys, when it comes to act, are going to do anything to oppose any new measures. But the truth is that Mr. Tsipras is attempting to soften the hardliners within his party and just basically give in to more concessions toward the creditors and have this new memorandum, agreement, whatever he calls it, have it signed, and then that's the end of Greece, basically. But that's what's happening. He's trying to make it look softer. He's trying to look for terms that would be acceptable by the hardliners and by the people. Of course, none of what's in the current proposals from the Greek side, of course, not even mentioning the proposals from the European side, the EU lenders and the other creditors. Those proposals are crazy, but so are the proposals of the current Greek government, this leftist government, which is anything but. So it's just another submission. It's just another surrender to the creditors' demands, and that's the total surrender of the Greek people. So Mr. Tsipras, in an interview at the Corriere della Sera, still talks about he's close to an agreement. He also mentioned earlier today, coming out of his office, I think he mentioned that we don't want to go to new elections because we have the support of the people, and we will stick to the people's will. I don't see any of the people's will in these proposals. The people want different things, and the proposals are just against them. So I don't see how he has the support, how he thinks he has the support of the Greek people. He doesn't have the support of the Greek people any longer. The mandate was completely different back in January, and he has not only broken his promises, he's completely eradicated the people's will. So everything else is just a lot of talking, a lot of waiting, but in general there are many reports today from Reuters, from anything to Reuters, Bloomberg, and other mainstream media that talks about an additional 3-page document submitted by the Greek government, where basically fiscal targets are being covered. Fiscal targets, I guess it's all about primary surplus and how the lenders are going to get their money, and how privatizations are going to move faster. But at the same time, what we see is that the Greek government wants to get rid of the ECB and the IMF. So it just wants to get this new tranche of money, about 7 billion. It wants to get that money and pay off the ECB, pay off the IMF, which is due end of June, and then get rid of those two institutions. But the truth is, it's not the Greek government who wants to get rid of the IMF and the ECB. The truth is that those two institutions are in trouble if someone were to really call them for what they have done. The IMF has opposing voices within its own institution, because what the IMF did with Greece back in 2010 is basically breaching its own rules. So the IMF is in trouble, and it doesn't want this to be known. So it's not Greece that wants to really get rid of the IMF. It's the IMF which wants to be sort of walk away as discreetly as possible. Otherwise, it's going to be a big international scandal. Of course, most of people who have looked into this know about this, but it's still being hushed. So the IMF wants out. The ECB as well wants out, because the ECB is, at the same time, it's a lender, a creditor, and at the same time it is capable of implementing policy. It's the bank, it's a central bank giving money or not to a country, and at this point it has cut the liquidity to Greece, and that is also something that is not apparently very legitimate in terms of international practice. There have been a lot of voices talking about this, that you can't be one of the institutions implementing policies in a country and at the same time be a lender. That's a conflict right there. So the ECB also needs to be sort of taken out. And what will remain is the European Stability Mechanism to be lending money to Greece. So that will remain the sole creditor. And that is that's a good deal, that everybody wants that. And so it's not the Greek government who all of a sudden wake up one morning and said, oh, we don't want the IMF and we don't want the ECB. This is probably the line that has been drawn from up above, and they put this into they conveyed this to the Greek government, and the Greek government comes with a proposal that is supposedly its own, whereas it's not its own proposal. Somebody dictated this specific proposal to the Greek government, because why would the Greek government all of a sudden come up with like all these ideas to get rid of the ECB and the IMF? The reasons behind this is specifically, I guess, legal issues or controversial issues on an international level, and the type of scandal that could burst, especially for the IMF. And its policies regarding Greece, because the IMF has breached international law and EU law in Greece. It has breached that law, and that has been the first time that it's done this in Europe, and that is major. But nobody at a high level talks about this, except we saw last week there was one article about this, but that's it. Then hush hush, nobody talks about it. In short, what Bloomberg and what Reuters talk about today is basically that if Greece, if the IMF and the ECB basically go out, then what remains is the ESM. So at this point, Greece wants money, wants this 7 billion euros to be unleashed from Europe so that it can pay Europe. It's quite insanity, but that's really what it is, and that's what I think that's Bloomberg saying that, or yes, that's on Bloomberg's. So the new document submitted by the Greek government, covering only fiscal targets, gave creditors a separate note, a 3-page note, 3 pages long, on how to address the country's financial needs. So basically the government asked to use funds from the ESM, the European Stability Mechanism, to repay 7 billion of bonds held by the ECB and in July and August. So basically take European funds to pay the ECB, Europe to Europe. What else? We heard something like that happened with the IMF back at the end of May, where the IMF unleashed some of its own funds to be paid its what it was owed on a specific day. So it's just insanity. In short, though, the international creditors still say that Greece is not considered credible, and they reject all of the Greek offers, and any proposal that's coming from Greece will be rejected. Any proposal until Greece accepts to swallow the European proposals. But the irony in it is that the Greek proposal versus the European proposal is almost identical. There are no difference. Mr. Tsipras says that no, there are differences. We don't want any. Our red lines are the pensions now. Yeah, right. Sure. It's just, this is all words. It's not even true. Even in his own proposals, there is question of cuts in horizontal cuts in those areas. But the biggest issue apparently right now, which is an immediate issue, is the increase in VAT, which they want a 23% increase in some areas, also in hotels and stuff like that, which will hit tourism very hard. Imagine we're at the start of the summer, and Greece, which relies on tourism for revenue, if they now increase VAT by I don't know, I think it was 10 or 11%. If they increase it to 23%, imagine that's a disaster. So that some islands, some region in Greece, it's the governor of South Aegean, wants to hold a referendum for this matter, and I think he has the support of Mr. Varoufakis. He wants a referendum on whether to increase the VAT at 23% or not. Imagine what people will vote if they're asked, would you like to have your VAT increased to 23% in the middle of the touristic season? Would you like what are people going to respond? Oh yes, we want an increased VAT because we want to pay the lenders. I mean, this is stupidity. This is a government that doesn't know what the heck it's doing, but and incapable of making any decision, and incapable of basically supporting its own people, its own economy, its own anything. Basically, let's despite what people think and how it looks, I don't see especially the Prime Minister and Mr. Varoufakis as any different from the previous governments. On the contrary, they are just dragging it, and it's just more painful. But other than that, they are ready to surrender. So I don't see any difference. Maria just came in and says situation is dire and crazy. I know. Maybe at some point this will burst out. So I don't want to be utterly pessimistic, because when things are so crazy and so dire, sometimes there is a resolution that's naturally occurring. So I am hoping for this. So in a way, in a weird, distorted, crazy way, that we'll see. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. But when things are really so dire, and they are, and so crazy, and they are crazy, they look like they are crazy, and they are crazy, I think maybe one should start being optimistic. We'll see. But anyway, I'm tired of reading the same things, but the truth is, Mr. Tsipras, in his Corriere della Sera newspaper, he said we're close to an agreement on the primary surplus. I should really say something about that primary surplus, but I will not say it. I'm just trying to be cordial. Primary surplus is death for the people, period. Even if it's 0.00001%. So he says we're close to an agreement with in terms of the primary surplus for the next few years. Oh, for the next few years. That means in 5 years the primary surplus can go up to 10%. That means you just exterminate the entire population. Great. One has to read behind those words. In the next few years. This is all very vague too. There just needs, it says Mr. Tsipras, there just needs to be a positive attitude on alternative proposals to cuts to pensions or the imposition of recessionary measures. So this is the key sentence in his whole interview. We're close to, we agree on the primary surpluses, or we're close to it, but we're not, we have to make sure that, we don't do any cuts in the pensions because that could create recessionary measures, as if the primary surplus is not a recessionary measure in and of itself. Just go learn some economics, Mr. Tsipras. Go learn, go read, go educate yourself, because you're clueless. Don't get me started on this. Even I started teaching myself learning some economics here. So anyway, so basically, this is the situation right now. It looks like, the Greek government, not the Greeks, the Greek government submitted same proposals as the lenders, more or less the same, with just very, very few details that are not quite there. Until they get to where the lenders want them to get, we will have no agreement and no money. And I don't care whether we have personally no agreement or no money, because we will not have money anyway. Even if we have an agreement, the people are not going to get any money. On the contrary, their money will be just swallowed. It'll be sucked up once again by the government to pay the lenders. So I don't care about any agreement. And by the way, just passing a thought that I keep forgetting to mention. Yesterday on Twitter, it was said there was a poll, and 71% of Greeks did not give a damn about the fact that Greece did not pay the IMF on that last deadline, which was last Friday. So 71% of Greeks couldn't care less that the IMF was not paid. So in line with that, if one thinks a little further, if Greeks don't care, imagine if they would care. If they don't care that the IMF wasn't paid, would they care if any other of the creditors would be paid? Greeks don't want to pay this illegal debt anymore, and they're tired of it. That's the truth. So regardless of those supposed, these are fake polls to my understanding, or at least inaccurate polls. Those polls over and over again have been coming with results that were not accurate in the past. So any polls coming out from Greece are usually rigged or tricked, and the results are shady. And I'm not sure how much they should be trusted. But I think if there were to be a real poll about what the Greek people really think today, I think an honest poll, which is very unlikely to happen, but anyway, I think the public opinion, the sentiment, I think would be at least my understanding of the sentiment of the Greek people is completely different from what the polls show. The Greeks don't care if lenders are paid. They actually most probably don't want lenders to be disbursed, because the Greek people know that this whole debt is not legitimate. It happened without them knowing, or it is the result of huge corruption and falsification of the deficit numbers back in 2009, 2010. It is the result of lies of politicians who were elected over and over again on not only false promises, on lies. So and the latest government is no different from any other government. So in that the last government, this government who is now in power, said that it would come to a solution. It will stop austerity in the euro, and that's a big lie. It either didn't know that was impossible, but even I knew it. So how can an entire party which is about to be in power, how can it not have the right people to do basic economic research, basic economic studies? So anyway, it came out and it was elected by saying we will be stopping austerity. We will end austerity in the euro. Later on, it just played with these words, and now it's using the euro to keep the Greek people hostage of the so-called pre-election promise. It comes now. It tells the Greek people that the Greek people voted for us to stay in the euro. No, the Greek people voted for you to end austerity. The Greek people don't know whether this is possible in the euro, and as it is not possible in the euro, and you either didn't know about it because you're stupid and dumb, or you don't have the right people, that's not the Greek people's fault. That's you either being clueless or, which is what I believe, you lying. Because you very well know, and if you didn't know before, you know now that this is impossible in the euro. So get real and get honest. And if you don't, then you're done. You're finished. And that's my live for today. Good luck to the Greek government. The Greek people will not surrender, that's for sure. I'm following, by the way, there is amazing voices now rising up on Twitter, and a lot of people have had it. So a lot of people are being very, very vocal about their feelings. And I think if you just scroll down any tweet, if you check the tweets from the Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras, and if you read the comments underneath, you can read, you can hear, you can see for yourself the rage of the people. Because the people have had it. The people know that all these were lies, are lies. So just visit Mr. Tsipras's Twitter account. He has a couple of accounts, and see for yourself. So my feeling is that the sentiment of the on the ground, at least, I mean on the ground, at least on Twitter, is that real people, I'm not talking the voices representing, Syriza official line, because you have a lot of those guys on Twitter still supporting Syriza and basically propagating lies, fake lefties. But no, the real people go and comment under the Prime Minister's tweets, and it's very interesting to see how they feel. They don't feel good. They're very angry. So anyway, let's hope that anger turns into a positive and constructive future, near future, not far away future. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be here tomorrow, same time. I hope, I mean, there's not really much to say except for whoever wants a deal is suspicious. Whoever says, come on, let's get it over with. Let's get that deal. Let's get that money is suspicious. All right, good night to my brother, my real brother. Good night to Maria. Thank you for your messages, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time. And have a good night, and keep it up. Bye-bye.